Addy soldiers. I forgot that I owned lipstick or could put on lipstick, so this one's a little old. It smells okay. So if I end up in the ER, I know it's my own fault. Today I woke up and thought, what's the best way I can procrastinate studying for my final exams? And I thought, yes, of course, I will film a video. It's a dark and stormy night, except it's not night, it's actually 12:40 p.m. and the wind is howling. So if you hear anything in the background, just get in the atmosphere for today's video. I haven't done a reading wrap-up in a couple of months, and it's mostly because I just fell into a really bad reading slump. I just couldn't get myself into a book, and I felt really bad. And finally, I just kind of got out of that, and I'm just like in the mood to read some words and absorb some things. So I read, I don't know, like a good handful for me over the last couple months, and decided to just do a good old reading wrap-up for, I guess, what is October and November. Oh my god, Christmas is so close. Okay, let's begin. By the way, yes, the tattoo is doing nicely. It's still wrapped, because fine line work, but you know, it's looking good, feeling good, and oh, what is that? A convenient segue into what I most recently finished, which is the entire Raven Boys series by Maggie Stiefvater. Again. In case you don't know, this is my Raven Boys tattoo that I will put in a card just up there for the video that I've talked about it in, but I wanted to get something reminiscent of one of my favorite series on my body, so I did. And rereading these again, I'm like, oh, it still slaps. And if you don't know about this series already, you need to. It's about ancient Welsh kings and ley lines and magical forests and people who can take things out of dreams and witches and prophecy, and it is such a stunningly beautiful magic realism series. I was reading some criticisms of this online with some casual racism and issues with the race of the two male characters who end up getting together at the end, but rereading it again with that in mind, specifically looking for it, I didn't notice that at all, and I also listened to the audiobook and I felt that I didn't hear it in there at all as well, so if you want to fight me on it and you want to, like, that's fine. I'm a white girl, I don't really have that much to say, but just as somebody who's read this multiple times, I didn't think any of those complaints stacked up. That is not an open invitation to harass me, but you know, I'm just saying I don't see it, but maybe you do, so we can just have a nice little conversation about it. How about that? I am being perfectly fucking civil in this video, I will tell you. The next one is a very quick read that I really enjoyed, and I'm glad that I got it, and that is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black, and illustrated by Ravina Kai. As somebody who likes fairy stories and liked the Cruel Prince series, I really enjoyed this. It's just kind of like extra tidbits and little like snippets of stories. I was more expecting this to be a novella with like a better overarching plot line or like one actual story, and it kind of wasn't. It was just like little bits, so I didn't hate it. I'm glad I have it, but I'm just like, if you didn't like Cruel Prince a lot, or you're just like whatever about it, it's not worth it to you. But if you do also like fairy lore like me, then it was worth it. And it's so beautiful! Look at that! Oh my god! I want to frame this! I want it tattooed on me! Oh. Mayhap. The next book that I most recently finished is very gorgeous, and that is The Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is in vaguely historical Italy, where a girl named Amelia and her family come from a long line of witches, and when she finds her twin sister murdered in what seems to be a summoning ritual, she tries to summon a demon and accidentally summons one of the 7 demon lords of hell, and then they need to work together to figure out who's murdering witches, and ooh, anything demon related, hell related, any kind of like weird afterlife related with kings and like mysterious magic I want. And have you seen this cover? Oh, I have been coveting this for months. Amelia is such a great character. She is sassy to the demon of like war and wrath, and I think that's so funny, and like their banter is really good. That's a good tension-filled novel, enemies to lovers book right there. Thank you, Carrie Maniscalco, for making the main character bargain correctly with an otherworldly being. There are plenty of stories of people cutting deals with demons or djinn or fairies, and everyone's just like vaguely spouting out things that they kind of want, and I'm like, this is how you end up trapped in the fairy realm for like 300 years. Come on, Susan, what are you doing? Amelia's a damn badass. She's like, no, what are your terms? What does this mean? What does that mean? If I don't do this, what's with this? And she like tries to trick some of the other demon princes by using words, and I'm like, ooh, this girl gets it. Also, we stand a fashionable demon prince. I love how much fashion is incorporated into this, especially how like he feels the way he looks. Like there's this ongoing gag with him in the shirt. It's great. And honestly, if I had to go to hell to get the fashion sense that he has, I'd be going. We shall go back in time to one of the first books that I finished in October because I had to finish Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas before Halloween. Don't ask questions, I don't make rules. This is about a trans boy named Yadriel who has a very traditional Latinx family who doesn't quite accept him and his gender. To be inducted into the magical goings-on of his witchy family, he wants to be inducted as a brujo instead of a bruja, but when he decides to do the ceremony himself, he accidentally summons a ghost that he didn't mean to, and it ends up being the bad boy of his high school that happens to be very attractive, but also dead, so like that's kind of a problem. So Yadriel and his friend Maritza team up with Julian to like help find out who murdered him, but also like there's other brujos and brujas being murdered, so they're like, oh god, we gotta find out about that. And, like family connection and tradition and like issues in the trans community and the LGBT community, and themes of family and acceptance and friendship, and it was just such a good book. I was clutching my chest almost the entire time I was reading this, not because I was scared, but because everything was so adorable. The ending goes from 0 to 100 real quick, and there is some gore and some violence, but I did like that we get to bring in the Latinx and Mayan gods of old. That was really cool. And honestly, if the Latinx patron saint deity can accept trans people, you can too. Next is something that I actually DNF'd, but I want to mention it anyway because I feel like it's getting a lot of hype, and I was so hyped for it, and I really didn't like it, unfortunately, and that is We Were Restless Things by Cole Nagamatsu. And it's about this boy in a small town in Minnesota who drowns in the middle of the woods miles from any body of water, and his best friend Nomi figuring out this secret and him like texting her from beyond the grave, which is weird. God, I wonder what the roaming charges are like in the afterlife. She must have a banging phone plan. Link's sister also realizing Nomi has a secret, and the new boy in town Jonas, as they all team up together and find out why only they can find this magical disappearing lake in the middle of the woods. Oh, I'm getting like shivers just thinking about it. Yet another reason why I don't like dark lakes. I will say, the thing I really liked about this is the setting. Cole Nagamatsu has that down pat. It's eerie and creepy, and the author does a great job exploring themes of anger and grief, especially with the main character having lost a friend and the new boy in town dealing with his own issues. But I DNF'd it because of the writing. Oh my god, we get it! Nomi is quirky! Oh my god, she's like a high school student, but like she wears cool earrings and like heels to work and like makeup and like doesn't care what other people think about her and like shoots artsy photography in the woods. Like, slow down there, Manic Pixie Dream Girl, we get it. And also, as an editor, I feel like this book could have really done with another edit because there are things in here that really irk me, specifically the showing and the telling. So in writing, you want to show a reader something, not tell them something. So for example, you would show that it's nighttime outside by saying the moonlight shone on the roof instead of just telling the reader it was nighttime. Sounds better, it allows them to visualize more. And this book did that, but it did it back to back. Like, it would have Nomi saying like something snarky and quirky, and then it would take 2 sentences to explain that she had just said something quirky and snarky. Like, I know, I was there. And it was like this for the whole book. Like, I get that this is a debut novel, but it just didn't quite hit right. So maybe if you're like not quite ready to go all the way like Maggie Stiefvater magic realism, like Anna Marie McLemore magic realism, but you want to like dip your toes into that deep dark lake, this might be good for you, but just for me, it didn't hit home. Another book that I didn't quite love as much as I thought I would. Unfortunately, it makes me so sad. A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. I liked her Air Awakens series. I love the Loom saga that she did, and this was a Hades and Persephone retelling with fairies! It was everything! It was supposed to be perfect! And it just wasn't. Every 100 years, the Elf King will come into the human world and take the human queen, and she's the only person with magic. And her magic in the real world can help nourish this dying elven world. So it's a really cool twist on the fairies and elves usually being tied with nature, and instead they're tied with like rock and iron and ice, whereas the humans are the ones that are tied with nature and magic. Big surprise, our main character ends up being the human queen and going with the Elf King, and oh my god, they're trying to break this curse, and they fall in love in the meantime. I also do like that our King Eldest was introduced by being like, yes, hello, I'm a dark fairy prince with a tragic backstory. Also, I have really nice hair. This is another book that could have done with another edit, because something that stood out to me was that there was a very small cast of characters, and she definitely should have done with one or two more. Mostly servant characters. I know she kind of explains it away, but it's just like, the captain of the guard can't be the captain of the guard and also the nursemaid and also the person that dresses the queen and also her babysitter. There's just too many things. She's like, this isn't a student film where you like can't afford one more part-time actor. Like, just write in like a throwaway line about like, this silent servant came in and dressed me and then left before I could question her, and like, done. And then I wouldn't, like, problem solved. I wouldn't have questioned anything anymore. It was too fast. It had some weird romantic stuff that I was not okay with. I think that the characters dealt with their emotions with both too much and then not enough, and just overall, this read like a really good Wattpad book. And I know that she can do better. I've read so much better from her, so I'm just like, why did this happen the way it did? I feel like it could have been a lot more of a book, and I'm sad about that. Okay, second to last is a book that took me the longest to finish. I think I spent like, I want to say almost 2 months reading this, just because it was so confusing and weird. But at the same time, I can't say I disliked reading Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I almost said Gideon the Ninth, that's not right. This is Lesbian Necromancers in Space, the sequel. I liked Gideon the Ninth more than I liked Harrow the Ninth, but the ending of this blew Gideon out of the water. This took me so long to read because it's so complicated, and I think that's actually something that would have benefited this book if she had just taken out like one element, just unbusied it just a little, because it gets real existential real fast, and I feel like I was constantly like reining in all my thoughts. And literally after I finished reading this book, I sat with myself and I went, what the fuck did I just read? I had to go to Wikipedia and like look up a summary of like what actually happened. I didn't quite connect with this one as much as I wanted to. I likely will still pick up the third one, and this is a very interesting series. This is a genre mash like I have never read before, so if you want something new and interesting, this is it. I also know a couple of my other friends finished reading this, and they immediately texted me like, you have to read it right now, it's so wild! And I mean, I did get my mind blown sufficiently, which is what I enjoy from my books. The last book that I want to mention is one that I really enjoyed more than I thought I would, and that is this beautiful copy of Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. Did you say Magic Circuses? Because I heard Magic Circuses, and if I hear Magic Circuses, that means I'm gonna buy it. This book follows the Star, the Master, and the Magician, three different people who are all differently involved in this magical circus that ends up being a little bit more competitive and dangerous than any of them bargained for. Kalia was an amazing strong female character. Oh, she does not put up with anybody's shit. She knows what she's there for and she's going for it. Heaven forbid you stand in her way. I liked how passionate she was and how driven and how much that she really yearned for something and like put the work and the effort in, even though she didn't really know what she was doing, and she's like, I'm gonna fake it till I make it, goddammit. And DeMarco, the magician, is also a great character. I liked seeing from his perspective too. I wasn't expecting to like him that much, but this was a very good antagonist to lovers? Not necessarily like full-on enemies, but there was some tension there, and I enjoyed it. I'm hoping this like weird other mirror world magic thing comes into play in the second one, because it was like a little bit weird, but I mean, I get it. She wants me to buy the sequel, and like, I'm probably gonna buy the sequel. This has some of my new favorite characters, and it's probably one of my favorite books of the year, so this is my watch out for this one in my, you know, best of the year wrap-up video, just saying. I've been talking for far too long. My tea is cold, and I have to put all these books back on my shelf. Please leave down below if you have also read any of these. What did you think? Become my friend on Goodreads. We can like look at what people are reading and like what we're rating them as. I'm hoping that after exams, which are, I think this week, maybe next week? I don't know. What's time anymore? I think I have them this week, I think. So after that, I'm going full holiday mode, and as you saw if you watched my last video, I just acquired a lot of books suddenly. So I'm gonna have to read all those, and I'm really excited to just like sit down and just read and not have to read for school. And if I pass this physics class I'm taking, I'm never gonna have to read about the Hubble expansion ever again, and oh boy, I'm excited for that. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!